And we're back. Oh, we didn't do our recording. So just start recording and we'll figure it out. Did you record your audio?
I did not record my audio.
Let's record the audio.
You want to
Hey
just...
guys, we're having a Starfleet Boy technical moment.
Okay, well, I'm going to start recording now. Is that fine?
All right, I'm recording now as well. Great. Now we're recording. Yay. And we're
Awesome. And we're back.
We're back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Boy, where we have a casual and informal discussion about Star Trek, currently focused on Next Generation Season 4, Episode 12?
12, yep.
I believe, which is called The Wounded. And I have to clear my throat there. That's one thing. We talked about Drunk Space Nine on the previous episode, and we're going to talk about Drunk Space Nine again, only because this is a Cardassian episode. and Goldie Scott would be very remiss with me if I didn't mention Drunk Space Nine. But one thing he hates is that I clear my throat a lot. So audience, if it annoys you as well, I apologize in advance because it happens. So Sean, for this episode, are you mentally prepared to do the episode?
I am not.
Okay.
I will prepare myself to do a next one at some point. I promise.
All right, so episode summary.
I'll check out the episodes that follow and see what one I want to do.
I think if this is like if you consider last episode Keiko and O'Brien's wedding, this is the honeymoon episode, because it starts off with them and a little discussion about replicators, and Keiko seems to
let's be fair. Let's say they've already had their honeymoon, and this is just kind of the settling into their because they went to Riser or something. They went to some exotic planet. This is them settling into kind of life at home.
Well, Sean's humanity forces us to give them a honeymoon, so this is weeks later.
It does follow their arc, which is interesting. They have this kind of 2-episode story going on.
Yeah, it's true. And so we really do get O'Brien kind of burst in. And not only that, we've seen O'Brien since day one, but this is the first episode where he is we saw this on Memory Alpha, but he is like the lead of the episode, basically. Like he has a moment, in the spotlight. Quite a nice moment. Anyways, we start off with them, and then all of a sudden the ship starts shaking, and we realize we're under attack by the Cardassians, and very quickly it's established that apparently there was a war going on with the Cardassians for many, many years. Sean, do you happen to know how long the Cardassian War lasted?
Oh God, absolutely not.
Okay, so that'll be an interesting thing for us to find out. But anyways, the Federation's been at war with the Cardassians for a number of years, and Captain Picard even recalls a mission on the Stargazer, his previous command, where he had to run from the Cardassians. But things go differently this time, where the Enterprise very easily outmatches the Cardassian warship, commanded by Gul Macet, and played by Mark Alemo, who later becomes a regular on Deep Space Nine as Gul Dukat. But anyways, we meet the Cardassians for the first time, and they're interesting looking species. They're very interesting because they're new, and as Memory Alpha pointed out, also they're pretty much set up to be like the Romulans and the Klingons, like a formidable opponent to Federation, the Federation in whatever
big
way.
Bad guys.
That's true, and they actually, as we know, they continue on to Deep Space Nine, and then we lose them in Voyager, of course, because
we lose everyone.
Totally different. We lose everyone. And some might argue we lose Star Trek. No, I'm just kidding. I like Voyager. What I've seen about Voyager so far is all right. It's not bad. Anyways, what's happening is the Cardassians inform Picard and crew that there is, what the F? Like, I thought we had this peace treaty, and now one of your ships is going around attacking our ships and destroying them. And Picard, of course, is like baffled by this, and then we realize that there's a rogue captain out there, Captain Benjamin Maxwell, and he's got it in his head that and we find out rightfully so, of course, because the Cardassians are devious, but he's got it in his head that the Cardassians are doing more than scientific research at one of their facilities, and he's trying to expose them, but he's going about it in a way that is going to potentially destroy the peace between the Cardassians and the Federation and plunge them right back into war. So Picard's been ordered by Starfleet Command to avoid war at all costs, and that is exactly what he does. He is actually, gives Commander Captain Maxwell a surrender or die scenario. Well, anyways, one of the interesting things is that Chief O'Brien's previous command was under Captain Maxwell. So eventually, to try and save the ship, the crew of the what was the Nova class starship's name? Do you remember?
Oh God, I like it. That's the worst thing about it.
The Phoenix.
Yes.
So the Phoenix's crew, to help, to prevent that disaster from happening, they conscript O'Brien to plead with Maxwell, and it works. At the end, he finally, does surrender and is shamed, unfortunately. But there's that really cool scene at the ending between Captain Picard and Gul Macet, where he basically says, "Yeah, you know what? To you, he's a nuisance, but he's one of the most decorated captains before this incident, and maybe we
cannot dismiss him.
Yeah, we cannot dismiss him. Perhaps we shall pity him."
That's it. Yeah.
But then he goes and he tells the Cardassians, like, well, okay, so
we will be watching.
Now that whole situation is over, how do you explain the jamming frequencies coming from these research cargo ships and that are putting out these high energy frequencies and things like that? We'll be watching you.
Research colony, so close to Free Federation outpost, you sneaky bastard.
And so Captain Picard basically says, we'll be watching, and Gul Macet looks like he's literally taking a crap in his pants in that moment. And that's it. That's the whole episode, right? Did I get it?
Yeah.
All right. I'll just say that this was a pretty good introduction. I'll start off by saying that it was a pretty good introduction to both the Cardassians. It was a great way to see another starship captain. Although I do have like you kind of noticed something about the previous episode. I noticed something that really annoyed me about this episode, and I'm wondering if you caught it.
Okay.
And I also liked that O'Brien. We got even more depth to his character by learning about what his previous command was, and learning about the Battle of Setlik, and the kind of trauma that he had been through, and so on and so forth.
It does add quite a lot of depth to his character.
Yeah, and then it introduces this war that obviously was never mentioned before. If this is it's an interesting thing that the show is doing by which the show's allowed to kind of do, I think, because relatively speaking, the Enterprise is on a peacetime mission, and it sounds like this war was kind of very contained to just this small sector of space, because they even referred to it as the Cardassian sector. So it's not quite
location Federation Cardassian border. So officially it went from 2347 to into the 2350s.
Oh wow.
And so they say that smaller skirmishes not officially considered part of the wars continued into the 60s. So that's 2360. So maybe that's referring to maybe what happened with Picard, etc.
Yeah, exactly. Like these.
But other than that, it went from the 47 to the 50s. So we'll say from minimum 3 years to maybe 5. Federation Cardassian border. And
I like that you just said Kardashian, like
goddamn Cardassian border. Sorry.
But they should do a Star Trek show called Keeping Up with the Cardassians. It could be like a comedy that.
No, let's not do that. Let's not fall that low.
Gul Dukat, does my butt look too big? Sorry. Gul Dukat's. It could be Gul Dukat's daughter. He could
Sorry to
be
tell you all,
later.
we've lost Sean. He's just left the podcast.
And wait, and later on, Gul Dukat goes through a sex change or a species change and turns human.
Oh, he goes through a species change, right?
A species change, and he actually becomes human.
I've always felt like a Klingon at heart.
Okay, now that we went there, let's bring it back.
I wouldn't watch that. That was one of the Star Trek shows that I would not watch. The line must be drawn out.
No further. Very, very good, sir. Very good, sir. But sorry, I interrupted you with my crazy idea. Please
no, that was it. They say the location was the Federation Cardassian border. So, I mean, it must be a reasonably contained combat or war, if you can call it a war.
You know what's interesting?
Strategic stalemate, says Federation.
Yeah, I guess so.
Creation of the Demilitarized Zone. So I suppose a kind of like a neutral zone.
Yeah, and the closest thing we have in currently the most famous demilitarized zone is between North and South Korea. So I think you can imagine something like that in space and much grander.
Much grander.
I'm curious. Let's look up really quickly what Federation space looked like. I wonder if there's anything like this, because they have to have it. Here we go. Let's see. Let's just see.
I can send you a map of Federation space if you want.
Do you have one handy? Like a really good one?
I have. Yeah, I suppose.
I just found like the whole galaxy.
Yeah, well, you got Federation blue, and then you got the Romulan Star Empire green, Klingon Empire red down the bottom, and the Cardassian Union is that red thing to the left there.
Let's open this email up real quick here.
And so the Demilitarized Zone is kind of the bumper between deep Cardassian space and the Federation. And
I just got a text message asking if my cat was in this room, and he's not, so I'm gonna let them know that he's not.
If you have a look, there's a place called the Badlands a little above the Cardassian Union.
That's where Voyager gets lost.
Yeah, and right below that there's Cardassia, and right next to that there's Bajor and Deep Space Nine. So that kind of gives you
an idea of where those things are.
An idea of all that's happening.
Here's something. Yours hasn't come in yet, but here's something I found on Google that's interesting. This is the entire galaxy, so it shows the whole entire thing, and so you can see here. There's like unknown regions there's like vast unknown regions, even in the Alpha Quadrant and the Beta Quadrant.
Yeah, well,
so that's like.
Here's the thing. I always theorized that. Okay, this is just me having fun in my mind, creating canon for a story that doesn't exist. But between the Romulans, so the Romulan Star Empire, and the Borg, I would say the Borg aren't that pushed into the Beta Quadrant, but whatever. I always imagined that the Romulans had some sort of spatial anomaly that they couldn't cross, and on the other side of that is another race, and that race have been fighting off the Borg for generations.
Oh, wow.
And so that's why the Borg have never spread into the Beta Quadrant, because they've always been held back by these other guys. But these other guys haven't been doing it to protect us. They're just doing it to protect themselves.
Well, Guinan must
and the reason why the Romulans...
Go on, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, I was just saying the reason why the Romulans wouldn't necessarily know about that is because there's so much spatial disturbance and what have you that they can't explore that way. So they kept on going towards the Klingons, they kept on going towards the Federation, etc.
That makes a lot of sense. That's a cool idea. But like, Guinan's, so if this is the limit of Borg space, like you can imagine they're making like excursions, and we find out obviously in Voyager how they're able to do it. They have that technology or whatever. But
Yeah. Transwarp conduits, is
but
it?
interesting conduits, yeah, exactly. But the interesting thing is that Guinan must be from somewhere in these like unknown regions that the Borg have like made these like skirmishes into.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. Look at how massive Borg space is. I know we started out, so here's Federation space, there's Bajor, and there's the Cardassian Union, as you said, and then the Breen are right there. Ferengi Alliance, the Romulan Star Empire, the Klingon Empire, the Gorn, the Sheliak conglomerate, which we've already met in Next Generation, gets all of this like area here, and then there's the
Okay, I'm
Tholians.
gonna be
So
honest.
it's like,
I don't think that map is very accurate.
oh, gotcha. There's the one here. Let's see if you're.
Klingon Empire seems too. I mean, everything seems too high compared to the Federation, and I'm basing this because the map that I have, I keep on consulting it when watching Discovery, and they're essentially making the map that I have canon because they're using this map as a reference for the show.
Oh, I got to see this map. All right, let's stop this screen sharing, and hopefully,
can I share?
Yours will come in a second here. Yeah, you probably could. If you look up at on the left-hand side, do you have the chat and then the little green arrow screen share thing? Do you have that?
Do I have that? So chat.
There's chat on the left side bar or whatever. Here's a lesson in Google. Do you see a little green screen share thing?
I've got a smiley face. Choose links.
See if I can enable it for you. Sorry guys, we're trying to figure out Google here.
Oh wait, here it is. Screen share.
Oh great, you found it.
Share.
And then present to everyone is what you want to hit. Oh, that's trippy.
Okay, so there we go.
Oh, that's cool.
So, and you can zoom in, and it's pretty good. So essentially, this is the separation between the Alpha Quadrant here and the Beta Quadrant here. Romulan Star Empire, Klingon Empire, Cardassian Union.
Ah, okay.
And so we have the Badlands here with Cardassia, Deep Space Nine and Bajor right here. And this is what we wanted to talk about. This is the Demilitarized Zone.
Oh, okay, I see it. You have to talk for it to go back to. Oh, here, maybe I might be able to command it. Command.
Anyway, yeah, no. So I mean, I always theorize that maybe around here, this kind of unexplored place, or place that we don't necessarily know about, not necessarily maybe this close, but maybe further out, there is something going on that's blocking the Borg's kind of advancement.
That looks like a poster that I need to have in my room. It's very cool.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether this is 100% accurate or not.
But it's pretty dense. I like that it's also done in the style.
Yeah, absolutely.
More or less of how the L cars might display it.
I will say this though: when you take a look at this kind of place here, this kind of map, you will recognize from the way they've been presenting Discovery recently. The Federation Klingon borders resemble this a lot. Kona's being here.
Yeah, that little vignette right there you've seen on the show on Discovery a bunch of times, actually.
This little thing here.
Interesting.
So yeah, and interesting to note, for those that are wondering, for those that are watching this on screen, Sol is here, so that's us. And everything is really close. Andoria is here. Vulcan is really not that far away. Vulcan is here. Andoria, Vulcan, and Tela Prime is very close as well.
Interesting, fascinating.
All of these four founding members of the Federation. Is that it? Tela? Yeah, Tela's there. So there we go. Journey to Babel. Babel is there, by the way.
Yeah.
So all of that takes place in a very small kind of Xerilia. All of that takes place in a very small place, and I
Makes
forgot.
makes sense because Enterprise with its only warp 4 capable vessel.
Sona, Baku, Briar Patch.
Look at
I'm
that.
just naming things that people recognize now.
Where's the
Um,
expanse? Well, I know it's not there anymore, but like where would the Zindi, does it have Zindi Prime on there or anything like that?
I don't think so, but I think I don't know. I had them somewhere. Was it the Horumi cluster that they went into, or
Oh, might have been. Or it could have been also they do go to Rigel, or is it Risa?
Ryza? Yeah,
So we can at least see how far that was for
but
them.
I complete that. I don't know where it is.
Okay. Interesting.
I must know at some point, but I just don't
It'd
remember
be
it.
cool if they had a program or a website where you could search and it would just like instantly take you to the point on the like kind of like Google Maps, but like a fake a fake one for
Okay,
the
so this is a huge tangent. This is a huge tangent, but I really do hope that one day I'm gonna stop sharing this now. Um, I really do hope that one day Star Trek as a whole, be it CBS or Paramount, just Star Trek as a whole, really get their stuff together and try to map out the universe and create like an interactive map um on the website and really make it fun and interactive for the people that want to, get into this.
You could have
Um,
clips associated, like you could click on Risa and it would show you like all the episodes that take place on all the shows.
it could show you a panoramic view of a city or a land, whatever landscape. If we've seen that, I
If
think it
we
would be
have any
really interesting.
developers in my 12 audience out there, jump on it.
Absolutely.
um, I do want to take a moment, I guess, to say that uh, we're well into the new year. I should have done this last episode, but I want to say thank you. Actually, we have had a new subscriber, so it's actually 13 people now that listen to the show. So, but thank you to everyone who listens and everyone who writes in. And I am a person who also has a full-time job, so this is sort of like something that I do as a passion and a labor of love, but I do try to answer as quickly as possible. So if you don't hear from me for a few days, please don't get upset. And that's that. And so yeah, lots of gratitude. I'm so excited about Star Trek. What else did you love about this episode? Like, or did you not love this episode? And can I tell you that
I
scene
love this
now?
episode.
Okay.
Go ahead, tell me the scene.
So
I'm intrigued.
I was just a little disappointed that we only meet Captain Maxwell from the crew of the Phoenix, and we only see his ready room.
Yes.
So and it looks kind of CG, like it doesn't really look real. And why would the dedication plaque be in your ready room? It's supposed to go on the bridge, and so
Yes.
that was my only I love this episode, but the only gripe with it was just that like it felt like the production could have gone a little
the,
further and given us a little more,
there is a
especially since
general
we've had other
issue.
bridges.
Yeah, no, there is a general issue in kind of TNG where when we see another captain or another, we hailing another ship, captain comes on screen, you don't have a bridge view. You don't see the helmsman and the first officer. You see like kind of just a face
This
shot of the,
basically
yeah.
right here. That's all you see. Yeah.
You have this essentially Skype call with a guy with a blank background, and I understand that's budget wise. And I'm going to go back into Discovery. I understand why they decided to go in the direction of hollow communicators for Discovery, so they don't have to deal with that. They don't have to create a set or CG a set behind a guy with other people. Just have a guy walk around on your bridge. But it was really awkward to see it in the ready room, and I did notice that. I did notice that it was in the ready room, and I was like, eh. The fact that we only see him and not the crew I'm okay with that. Often, often we find ourselves with only the captains left alive and everyone else is dead. But this was just like the crew. They're doing their own thing. The protagonist or antagonist is this captain here.
Right.
However you want to see it, or the confused war veteran. He's the only guy that we need to focus on. So it didn't disturb me that he was the only one we saw. The ready room was weird. Captain Picard would never speak to someone out of his ready room. It's not what he does.
I mean, he does it only like when he's talking to an admiral about something like.
Yeah, but you're talking.
You know, like,
you've got confidential stuff going on with like a superior officer or something. Yeah.
I guess in a way, one could argue that like maybe Maxwell was keeping his own crew in the dark as to where he was getting the orders from. Maybe he hadn't told them that he's gone rogue, and so in that sense, like you can kind of have him, you know, like that's why he's going to his ready room and everything. But I'm just saying, even with that explanation,
makes sense. He wants to keep everything as official as possible on the bridge and with his crew. And having these kind of communications going on with Picard and anyone else would kind of, I suppose, show that he's not right.
Yeah, like that he doesn't have all
choices around his head.
Right, and he isn't, because he's not actually sanctioned. But see, you could, as a captain, you could tell your crew that you got a top secret order from Starfleet Command to do this, and there's really nothing.
Yeah, no one
else who can checks and balance that. You know, like even
even
on this show, like the crew trusts him. You know, they're hunting the Phoenix, right? And that's an order from Starfleet Command, and Worf actually kind of challenges them in that one scene where he's going to give. I like the reference to the prefix codes, because we learned about prefix codes in Star Trek The Wrath of Khan, and so like in this episode you can see that that's still something in use. And like, you know, that scene where he gives the prefix code, although it's useless because the Cardassians apparently don't have superior firepower, but it's like I also loved, by the way, I did like the tactical readout on the view screen, where it showed, even though it was a very simple play with just these dots and the, you know,
I don't like the fact that the dots explode. They should just disappear. It's kind of cheesy. Why would you have your dots explode? Like, make it entertaining, right? But there's a lot of tension in that scene, just watching these dots follow each other, and you just see the face of the Cardassian posing like, oh my god, they destroyed they killed 600 people, they destroyed our warship.
Yeah, it's really well done.
They're going after these, and he's got this whole thing with the civilians. Like, this is just a small transport ship of whatever it is, and it's another 50 people gone. And even in Picard, you see this worry, like oh god,
like what's gonna happen?
What are we in? You know, what are we getting ourselves into now? It's a great scene. It is a bit cheesy that it explodes, but
well done with the tension building and
yeah, no, absolutely, and yeah, granted, it's simple graphics. But that just goes with, you know, when the show was made.
Yeah, it's totally true.
And that's fine. That's just aesthetics. It's not that bad.
So according to Memory Alpha, also this was the very first appearance of the Nova class vessel, which is kind of interestingly going back to Star Trek 2. The design is similar to the Reliant, but now it's updated to this kind of the next generation style, with the oval, you know, saucer section, and the nacelles being they are, and so on and so forth. So I thought that was cool, and I like the configuration that it had, like kind of like these, like, you could tell that it was like a vessel that had like amazing sensor capabilities, because they had that whole big triangle on the top that you can imagine is just like, you know, space radar. So pretty cool there. Again, I don't think it would have been. It just would have been. To me, you know, I'm writing this episode with another ship, and I'm like, oh, it's a chance to show another ship. Like, it wouldn't have been that hard to redress the Enterprise's sets, because you can imagine that the bridge is probably similar. just like on the Yamato, but they could put
So
like
the
kind of
saucer section.
what's that?
The saucer sections are similar, aren't they?
Yeah, they're like almost exactly the same. So
So
it's
you
like
could imagine the interior is to some certain extent
the
quite
same.
similar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
quite similar. It's true. So it
Um,
wouldn't have been that hard. But anyways, regardless, I think despite that, and of course, obviously with budgetary constraints, it still packs a wallop, and it's still a really great episode. And
I
Captain Maxwell reminded me a lot of our Captain Lorca in a sense. Like I wondered if
mm,
if there wasn't something uh if Captain Lorca isn't like a Maxwell type of captain, that we'll
yeah.
find out. Of course, Dune, uh, as Discovery comes back on January 7th, like because there is some mischief going on for sure in with Captain Lorca, so we'll find out very soon what he's up to, hopefully, and then maybe it'll be out of control.
Um,
um I
I'm gonna.
like that scene where oh go ahead, sorry.
No, no, go. You go ahead.
Oh, well, I was gonna say one of the things I liked was the actual meeting of the two captains, and what a contrast like they were, and I, I like where they're having that ready room, and you could tell Picard's like trying to like he's genuinely like, what the hell are you doing? Like because Max was saying all these things like, oh, it's like because the Cardassians are this. How do you know that? What where did he goes, I had to act now, and he's like, why? Like
Yeah.
you got this amazing intel. Like why did you have to act right now? Like why couldn't this be something that like got taken to the Admiralty and like like a more formal diplomatic solution? And so it
You
is, and
screwed
then
this up for all of us. Couldn't you think
yeah, you're
about
like
this?
really messing it up.
Mm.
And then like most bullies, Maxwell resorts to that line where he's like, smells musty in here like a bureaucrat's office.
Yeah. But I like that. I like the delivery on that line, and I like the way he says it. He's just kind of, there's a kind of like a disgust as he says it. Picard, like, what have you become? Like, I thought you were an active captain going around, but you're just a bureaucrat. I like it.
Picard has the best last word though, because he says something. What does he say to him? He goes, "Oh, you're a fool, Picard. You're gonna go down in history." Yeah, I'm paraphrasing, of course, but you're gonna go down in history as a fool. And Picard says, "I'll accept the judgment of history." Like he's very confident that he's not gonna go down in history as a fool. Yeah,
You're the
that was like an awesome moment. We know what a brilliant actor Patrick Stewart was, but I think he did, like what you said, he had a great actor to work off of in this scene who was like
yeah.
really kind of like doing that.
I really need to praise everyone's acting in this episode.
Yeah, super good. Something that definitely stands out. On Memory Alpha, it was mentioned that the song that Captain Maxwell and O'Brien sing at the end is a song that was sung like in some skirmish or battle in the 1700s. But I recognized it episode because it's a song that's prevalent in the movie The Man That Would Be King. And if you haven't seen that film, you should check it out. It's pretty entertaining. It's Michael Caine and Sean Connery in their younger days. Yeah, the song sung in that, and apparently one of the production executives also knew about that and was like really happy that the song was in the episode. But I like that scene too because it was a good way to kind of show, like it did show that these two men, O'Brien and Maxwell, had seen a little too much war. And like the other scene I liked that kind of ties into that is like there's the younger Cardassian who's like really thing, like he's like, yeah, let's make it happen, like let's go drinking in 10 forward and stuff like that. And O'Brien's just like a total jerk to him.
He's like a veteran that snaps.
Yeah, totally. Snaps. He's like, he's like, if my commanding officer tells me to, tell you everything I know, I will, Cardassian, but don't ask me to have a drink with you or something like that, and
But then he has that very kind of deep scene later on where they're at the bar, and he apologizes for being that way, and then he has that line where he says, you know, it's not that I hate you, Cardassian. It's I hate what I became because of you. I
right,
love
yeah,
that. It's so awesome.
yeah,
That's
super
really
heavy
great.
too, like, yeah,
Yeah, no,
and
the
it doesn't,
writing is really good.
yeah. And that continues on to, and I don't know, I haven't done enough research, or I wouldn't even know where to find this kind of information, to be honest, but I'd be curious to know if like the seeds of DS9 weren't being planted all the way back here, because I don't think DS9 airs till like next season, if I'm not mistaken,
Season six,
like,
even.
or season
Yeah.
6, yeah, but like, like it's interesting, like the kind of, you can look at these episodes, you can, if you're a DS9 fan, you can like totally put these episodes, the previous one and this one, into like an extended viewing sort of
Yeah,
viewing
the
session.
DS9 verse. The
And then of
DS9.
course and then of course you get the Bajorans and you get Ensign Ro later on, and
Mm.
so yeah, there's going to be a lot more to do with the Cardassians. The Cardassians actually in TNG are one of my favorite additions to TNG, and of course they become more fleshed out in Deep Space Nine, but I do like the way they fit into this, and I did enjoy them as adversaries for Picard and company.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, this is the first appearance of the Cardassians, and I think it's one of the greatest first appearances that Star Trek has had. Because now that I've rewatched the first appearance of the Borg, kind
Mm.
of underwhelming. Yeah, they're
You mean
scary.
the episode where Q sends them off
Yeah,
to meet them, right? Yep.
it's like, yeah, they're scary, but you don't really feel the menace. You feel more the kind of asshole nature of Q in that
Yeah,
episode.
it's more of a Q
Um,
episode for sure, because I think yeah, yeah.
the
I don't think
Romulans,
they
the
plan.
first time you see them in TOS, it's kind of like, ooh, they look like the Vulcans, but then you're like, you're not really. The Klingons, again, the first time you see them, it's kind of underwhelming. You get a bunch of them on a planet, but nothing really happens with it. It's just Kirk saying these things like they do this and they do that and they do this, but then
Oh, it's
they
that
don't really
episode
do
with
anything.
those guys that was. Oh darn.
Diffuse the situation and everything.
Yeah, yeah, but what were their, they were powerful somehow, right? Like it's been a long
They
time
are
since I've seen
powerful,
that.
but
Yeah,
they're an Enterprise as well.
yeah.
Technically, canon wise, they're an Enterprise before they're in TOS,
Oh,
and
I don't think
that's
I've
why they took
gotten.
human appearance.
Uh, I haven't gotten to that
Um,
episode yet, so that's good, exciting.
mm, season 4 does a lot of good things. In Enterprise. But yeah, I mean, and the Ferengi. Let's not talk about the first appearances of the Ferengi,
Which
which
was they rebooted the Ferengis within the
yeah,
show,
they're an
essentially,
embarrassment
basically.
to the Ferengi.
That's true.
Um, so I think the Cardassians were yeah, sure. He's got that facial hair that looks a bit awkward.
Well,
Um,
it's I mean,
but I mean,
it's
everyone's allowed to
it's
have their own facial hair.
yeah, and like this is kind of like one of those things that like is interesting about watching a show, is that like you realize that even from a production standpoint, like characters can evolve, because like Romulans didn't really have ridges kind of on their heads
Yeah, I
before,
still
and
can't
then
figure that
in
out, but
TNG, like yeah, it's like kind of a strange thing that happens, but and this is like going back, this is the other argument on the Klingons in Discovery. There's many people that are just arguing that like, hey, just accept it because it's a production update. It has nothing to, like, what Klingons look like is not as important as what they represent
yeah,
in
but the
the
Klingons
show.
in Discovery don't really represent what the Klingons represented.
Yeah.
Moving
No,
on.
that either. You're right. It's true.
Um,
There's more problems
Cardassians.
with just the way they look. It's true.
The Cardassians in
But
this
going back to
episode, I think,
Cardassians,
were really good.
I thought like the little helmets that they wore interesting, because like one could
Mm.
imagine that they're tactical displays and that they use them to pilot their ships. I was wondering about like what the use of them was, but of course we never see this again. So it's just
Okay,
again,
so
an anomaly.
this isn't something that I'm gonna say the episode did wrong because I mean, they chose to go with one design, and as you say, they kind of abandoned that helmet or kind of tactical display or whatever you want to call it. They abandoned that later on. What I would like is fine. The production team have decided that that wasn't a good idea. It didn't work very well, but maybe in at least one episode later on down the line, you try and redesign that. You try and reuse it, rework it, and then use it once more so that you kind of have a coherence between two episodes in different moments in time. It's kind of like, because at this point, it's like the first time you see the Cardassians, they have this on their head, but then they never have it again.
Or yeah.
Why?
Or it'd be funny if they could do like an in-world explanation where like maybe Quark sold the Cardassian Empire these defective visors that he claimed would help them with,
Also,
like
they could do something
yeah,
like that.
where so that you
But
can
then
put a humorous twist on it, and then at
have the
least
same
there's like
thing with them.
like an explanation that's kind of fun, you know. But again, how much do we really need that?
I don't know. It just adds to the universe.
It
I think.
enriches it. Yeah, it's true.
The first time we see the Romulans on TOS, so because they didn't have that much budget for the ears, because the ears cost a lot, only the main Romulans have ears, but all the others have helmets.
That's right.
Never see the helmets again. Not a single Romulan ever wears a helmet ever again.
Although their haircut kind of resembles
it does. They have this kind of bowl helmety haircut, but
they
never wear helmets ever again.
It's true.
It's a shame that, you know, I mean, TNG's years later, they could try reworking this. They could say, hey, look, maybe just once we can try and put a helmet on these guys, see what happens. I don't know. I think it's an interesting way to do things. It just helps tie in certain elements rather than have like, oh, it was just the first time we did it. You know, that's what they look like. The Ferengi is going to be. They did that with the Ferengi because in Enterprise they gave them that whip.
Oh, that's right.
And they had to move around, not necessarily on all fours like they kind of did in TNG, but they had them more. So they kind of transitioned that, which was nice.
That's cool. I think that, like, again, you know, maybe we'll get this like mini series that we talked about. This Starfleet Boys' new mission is a TNG mini series. It's like what they're doing with Doc, which I don't think it's come out yet, right? I've been out of the
no, they're working on
holiday.
it.
Yeah, so the DS9 doc promises to give us kind of like a little glimpse of what an 8th season of Deep Space Nine would have been like, which is kind of neat. And so, you know, I think it would be awesome if, you know, rather than doing that, like, you know, hey, it's totally something that's happening in TV. Like Larry David, for example. Do you know the show Curb Your Enthusiasm, Sean?
Nope.
Well, there's this really funny show called Curb Your Enthusiasm with Larry David, the writer of Seinfeld. He had his own show, and it ran for like 7 seasons. You know, it had a full nice 7-year run, and then it's like 10 years later he's doing the 8th season. You know, so it's like, I think Star Trek could do that. TNG could totally pull it off, and then maybe we can get an 8th season of DS9 and an 8th season of Voyager and a 5th season of Enterprise. You know, like, if you're gonna go back to the past, why not just continue these shows that already have, you know, these like huge followings? And I think it'd be neat to do that. So that's our new mission on Starfleet Boy for the New Year's. That's our New Year's resolution, is to get the idea out for a Star Trek The Next Generation miniseries. And that's it.
I'm looking at my notes because I have notes.
Oh, you have notes on this episode?
I have notes on this episode, but I didn't really. It's a great episode. Honestly, it's an amazing way to introduce the Cardassians. It's an amazing way to introduce the war, and I think all of the performances are great. I have written down costumes look cheap, so that's okay. Yeah, that's the Cardassian costumes. They kind of look like I don't know, paper mache with cardboard boxes underneath.
No, there's definitely times where you notice them, but not like in a way that like, oh, that's like really cool. I think there's like moments where I thought that looked like they're made of like foam rubber or something like that, and
Yeah,
it like
it
and
does
then
look like
it's true.
just boxes stuck on somewhere.
They are a cool alien though, because they do have enough alienness where you're intrigued by it. Like I found myself like really examining their faces. Oh, you know what? There is that one moment. So interestingly enough, you have the one younger attack. Interestingly enough, Gold Dukat comes aboard with like two members of his crew, and I can't remember what their ranks are or anything like that, or even if it's stated. But
There's the young guy that drinks
with O'Brien, who's a
and
little
there's the
more
other guy
optimistic.
that gets told off.
He's a little more optimistic, but the other guy seems to be kind of like Captain Maxwell. He's on the Enterprise and he takes this opportunity to like down and he gets caught.
But I think he
That
was
one scene, and I
genuinely sorry.
well, I
You
didn't
cut
hear.
off.
Oh, sorry. You think he was genuinely what?
I think it was just genuinely trying to figure out how it works. 'Cause isn't he the guy that asked questions about the transporter at some point?
Oh, maybe he is the
I think
guy
he's
in
just
that.
technologically inclined or interested in how the tech works.
This is true, but it could also be that knowing the Cardassians as we
Oh
do,
yeah,
Gulmasset,
absolutely.
Gulmasset may have actually put him on that mission. And so when he gets caught, of course he has to do this like in public, where he
Oh
like
wow, you
you
went
go,
even further than me. I thought it was
yeah,
just like the goal was like, nah, whatever your motives were, whether they were innocent or not, like you shouldn't be touching that console, and you're making me look bad. So
right, but maybe it was more like,
go to
oh,
your room.
yeah, you got caught, so now I'm gonna
Oh,
like
masquerade as like
yeah, I'm gonna reprimand you in front of the
mm.
Federation here, but like in actuality, it's just a failed mission, you know?
Oh God, I wish I knew what the writers were thinking when they wrote these episodes.
I know it's interesting that like you can see both of those perspectives and like, I think it's like the mark of good storytelling is that there is enough ambiguity where it counts, like where you want it to be kind of fun to have like open ended things like that. Another thing, this time we read stuff on Memory Alpha first, and I don't know if I like it better or not because now we're just talking about stuff that we read on Memory Alpha. But regardless, an interesting thing that was posted there was that the director that the episode aired during the Gulf War, and it was an interesting counterpoint to during the Gulf War. It seemed like we were doing everything. The United States, at least, was doing everything it could to get into a war, and here Captain Picard is doing everything he can to prevent a war. So, I thought that was a pretty interesting, like, historical moment about this episode that it aired during the Gulf War. I had no idea about that,
Mm.
and I saw it. So I must not have. I was very young when TNG first aired. I was still in my adolescent, early adolescence, and you don't really think about wars the same way at that age that you do when you're older, and you become aware of your mortality a little bit more. Wars are cool when you're a kid. Which is a very scary idea, and I
Yeah.
wonder if it has anything to do with why people who are young are the ones that go to war. Um, we should send our elderly to war. I think wars would be much different and fought differently if it was. They would end in card games and
I'm
drinking.
not sure that would be a widely accepted kind of point of view. We should send our
Sorry,
elderly to war. Yeah, like
sorry, Grandpa.
people that
Wait,
have
sorry,
already
Grandpa.
done all of their lives, they just want to relax. They don't want to they don't necessarily want to go to war. I mean,
Sorry, Grandpa. You're 65. You have to go and fight in war now.
yeah, war has changed. You're not going to get trench foot anymore. Fine, but I mean,
Just something to think about. It's in the next episode of Black Mirror.
we can try and not do war anymore. That would be nice.
I like that the best. That is the actual best solution to it. Well, I think that covers everything about this episode. Is there anything else in your notes that you had?
No. It's just an overall great episode. It's one of the episodes that I really like. I think the tension works really well. All of the
Yeah,
performances are very good. Um, Fine, I do. I mean, the costumes look a little cheap, but you end up looking at their faces, as you said, a lot more than you look at their costumes. And the faces, though they aren't the final Cardassian look,
Cardassians that we come to know, right?
they are very intriguing as the first time you see these aliens, and they do look very lizard, kind of cold-blooded.
Absolutely.
And they are very intriguing. They are, as Memory Alpha says, they are kind of elitist enemies. They don't stay quiet, or they don't grunt, or they're not just a hive mind. They
Right.
kind of talk to you, and they have their own ways of
Right.
thinking, and they can challenge Picard mentally.
Gold Dukat graduated at the head of his class too at the the
Mm.
Cardassian Academy of whatever, the Obsidian Order or whatever it's called.
And this whole story about this captain, which is unable to adapt to the new world, which kind of resembles Kral from Beyond.
Oh yeah,
Or
another
Edison. Kral was different, but Edison, as explained, said he couldn't adapt
That's
to
really
life
fascinating that
after
you
the
picked up
war.
on that. Yeah, that's interesting.
Um,
And also Star
so-
Trek 6, we mentioned this in our off-camera discussion, but Star
yeah,
Trek 6
Captain
also
Captain
Picard.
Kirk.
Kirk, yeah, sorry.
Captain Kirk says like he's essentially a racist towards sorry,
Klingons.
Klingons. He says Klingons killed
Klingon
my son.
sorry.
Yeah,
Klingon
no,
bastard. Okay.
it's I think it's a great episode.
Actually,
I
in
really
that,
do.
yeah. So it references it, and I like also that it makes the Star Trek and the Federation not quite as like tidy and like perfect as it often seems
Mm.
to be. Like there are these like differing viewpoints and like rogue captains. I've always thought that a great idea, and I don't think it's been done yet, and maybe this is something we'll see. Since like television fiction borrows from cinema and other great things, as this does too. Um, because they say it was kind of based on Heart of Darkness, which is what the film Apocalypse Now is based on. Um, I would love to see like something like The Hunt for Red October in space, like a cloaked vessel heading for like a Romulan, like a very strategic
Mm.
Romulan vessel heading for Federation space, and all the Romulans are trying to hunt it down before it gets there, and then you have like kind of a story like that would be a neat thing I think to see in Star Trek.
That'd be
But
very interesting.
yeah,
I think Star
so
Trek is at a point where we can be experimental. I think now we have the base format of Star Trek, which I think it would be nice to have that base format constantly. It would be good
mhm,
to have an optimistic, very simple, episodic show that has a 7 season run,
mhm.
which all of the hardcore fans and just people that want to sit down and watch one episode can watch. But you have like these mini series, or these movies that go in completely different directions and try new things within the world of Star Trek, within the universe of Star Trek. I would love to see a TV show about B'Elanna and Tom Paris just living on a planet, just driving like he's the pilot of a spaceship in races, and she's fixing and engineering on the spaceship, and that's it.
That's kind of
Just
fun, yeah.
they're just doing that, and you got these illegal gamblings that going on, and the Federation has to deal with that, and maybe they have kids that get up to shenanigans. That would be awesome.
A show that's really good at doing this, and I think Discovery might incorporate this into its future seasons, is in Doctor Who you have like of course the main episode, but then and this was done a lot more during the previous incarnation of Doctor Who, the 11th Doctor, where you would have web episodes that were, some of them were like 15 minutes, 20 minutes long, that would just kind of fill in these like little gaps and like
Oh,
follow like
Dead
storylines
Space
that,
doing that too.
what's that?
Well, The Walking Dead's been doing that as well.
Oh, okay, excellent. So I think that there's no reason. I think that that kind of thing only enhances a show, and I think that like it gives your audience the satisfaction it deserves. I don't. I think that like.
You have to be careful with that though,
Why do you
because
think that?
yes, you can enhance your show by kind of creating uh more
More
story and
depth.
yeah, exactly. But often you find yourself considering these are just like free little things that come out on the internet. They don't have as good directing or writing or often acting. You find yourself with kind of subpar performances and subpar just quality
Well,
in
again,
general.
that would be a failure on the production team and the creators of the show because you cannot say that about those Doctor Who webisodes. When you watch them,
Okay.
it's like you're like seeing it. It's they're like quality and the actors are and there's one in particular that's a heartbreaking moment that's
Oh.
like so important to this show
Oh wow.
uh and sets the stage for something in the future and it's just the two actors deliver it just like beautifully and it's like it doesn't seem different from the only thing that seems different is that it's shorter, you know what I
The
mean, like
format. So Doctor Who did it right.
right. I think Doctor Who would be an example to look at to follow and do it the way that they did it in my opinion. I mean you'd have to
Awesome.
you haven't made your Doctor Who journey yet, but I insist that you do Battlestar Galactica first, but actually they did it too because Battlestar Galactica had a web series that filled in a lot of the gaps. And what's fun is that I think, if I'm not mistaken, I haven't watched it in a long time, but the Blu-ray box set incorporates all of it. So you have all these like webisodes that had aired at the time and stuff like that. And by the way, I was wrong. I had told you to begin with the pilot, which was in 2005, but actually Battlestar Galactica started in 2003, I think.
I think it was.
So you have to watch that first.
I'm gonna be honest. I did try to start Battlestar Galactica at one point,
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
but considering I am one of those crazy nutters that has to see everything, I was
It's a
like,
lot.
okay, so where do I start downloading this? And so I said, okay, I'm not gonna be too crazy. I'm gonna start from the reboot because it did that essentially 2004, whatever it is a
Yeah,
reboot.
yeah.
But as you say, I did figure out there was a miniseries before, and I couldn't find out where to get that. I didn't want to start buying everything straight away. If I very much enjoy a TV series that I have downloaded,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know,
I
you're not
there
allowed to download. But
I'm not saying that this is me that's gonna put this there, but there might be a little present in your cloud at some point.
okay, well, I very much I make a point of saying that I do buy television series, music, etc., that I enjoy. It's just that often I like to watch it or listen to it beforehand. I think it's only fair.
That makes
Um,
sense. And I think that that's the unofficially accepted thing that even the studios understand because ultimately like
I'm not gonna
I,
buy 7 seasons of Battlestar Galactica if I don't like it, or even 1 season.
right. Or even one season, precisely. And the thing is that like when you do love a show, you end up spending way more money on that show than anything. And so it is only in the
Yeah.
benefit. I think it's in the interest of studios to put out at least first seasons for free online somewhere. And some people do this. Like you can like I think PBS has Downton Abbey available for streaming it, but it's not
Oh,
as
wow.
high quality. And I'll use them as an example because I'm a huge fan of well, actually, Battlestar Galactica also. When it first aired on television, the show looks great, but there is a quality when you're watching it on broadcast, even where the cable can be interrupted or it looks kind of whatever. But when I watched Battlestar Galactica on Blu-ray, it was a whole different experience, like watching it again. So it's a delight for
Wow.
fans who love a show when you do finally buy that Blu-ray, which I think is
Mm.
still the ultimate way is to get like an actual physical media because streaming services aren't quite there yet. Although iTunes supposedly has the 4K thing now, but who knows? But but regardless,
I like to have my
watching it
physical
on
things anyway. I like to have my
yeah, and
booklets and my
watching it on
little.
Blu-ray is great. And that's the thing is that what kind of upsets me about the whole CBS model is they're already getting my money to watch it on streaming, and of course they're gonna get more of my money for me to get it on Blu-ray, because I'm gonna want to pause it and make sure that Klingon ship is awful, like I think it is.
Klingon.
So I guess let's get to rating the rating of this episode. I went first last time, so I'm going to insist that you go first this time.
Okay, well, I'm gonna give this episode an 8.5.
I will join you actually and give it an 8.5 as well.
Okay,
so
well, there you go.
8.5s all around. Very good. All right. Well, that was fun.
Which averages out at 4, as we all know.
Of course it does. Anyway,
8.5 is the average, just to clarify.
On that note,
for those that have fallen into the trap.
Thank you, Sean, for joining me again. This is a really fun discussion, and I look forward to another discussion. Later, I can't advertise what we're doing tomorrow, but we're doing something new and exciting tomorrow. So stay tuned. Timey wimey wibbly wobbly for that. Anyways, live long and prosper, and we'll see you next time.
See you guys.